Hello, we'd now like to share some faculty and student profiles with you. We hope you enjoy learning about these faculty and student experiences at the Rubenstein School.
The American robin has kind of a nice warbly song. One of the reasons why I first started picking up bird calls is I realized that there was a bird out there that was making a noise and I just couldn't see it. I was pretty sure I knew what species it was, but it was just hidden in the forest. So I said, well, what the heck, I'll try an imitation. And the first time it worked, the bird came closer. I was like, wow. I found that getting students outside and getting them excited about the natural world and wildlife is really easy when they can have those personal connections. So seeing a species, seeing a bird, seeing a mammal up close really gets students excited about the natural world. And I think they develop this connection in terms of how can I save this? How can I make this place better?
Every spring, we put out fish traps to catch small, newly hatched trout because we're trying to assess where the trout are and how many are hatching. And it's been a common observation for years that in those traps we will get sculpin. And some of those sculpin are substantially bigger than the whole of the trap. So the observation that intrigued me was this ability of sculpin to get into a space apparently smaller than its head. And what I needed was a student to work with who could have the knack of taking care of fish in the laboratory and watching behavior carefully. So it's what we call finding a student with a slimy thumb. So we began with the simple observation. That's how all science begins. What Harrison was able to do in the lab is turn that simple observation into a quantitative study where he was able to look at many sculpins in his tunnel that he developed and get an idea of how many of them ended up going into spaces smaller than their head. So his discovery was this ability of sculpins to compress their skull to get into a smaller space. And to the best of our knowledge, looking at the literature, nobody's actually looked at that ability for a fish to malform its skull. And then the eureka moment in some ways was Harrison's ability to find a method to actually quantify it, to put it into numbers, so that he was able at the end of the day to come back to me and say, yeah, yep, you're right. They are getting into funnels smaller than their head. It's like, got it. Right, we can put numbers on that. And that's exciting.
How you doing? I'm Tony D'Amato, and I'm the director of the forestry program here at the University of Vermont. And I look forward to the opportunity to hopefully meet many of you in person after Admitted Students Day. As all of us recognize, forests are really central to so many things that we benefit from, whether it's clean air, clean water, carbon storage, or just the personal satisfaction we get from being out in the woods. Unfortunately, I think as we all also recognize, there are a lot of things that are affecting the ability of those forests to really survive and thrive in the future. And some of those elements include changing climate, a proliferation of invasive insects and diseases, things like emerald ash borer, that are really threatening the functioning of forests and really influencing our thinking about how are we going to be able to sustain all of these great benefits going forward in the future. And so one of the main research areas that I really focus on is developing what we call forest adaptation strategies. That is, are there on-the-ground management actions that individuals can use that might help sustain some of those benefits from forests, even in light of all of these changes? And so what we've initiated is a very large-scale project known as the Adaptive Silviculture for Climate Change project. That's actually international. There's locations both here in New England, but also around the country, as well as in Canada and other parts of the globe, where we've actually paired with managers to develop and test different strategies that they think, as well as with our expertise, may be effective for keeping forests as healthy functioning ecosystems even in a time of change. So some of the strategies that we're looking at are increasing the complexity of those forests, so multiple ages of trees, multiple sizes of trees, having a diversity of tree species, but also introducing some tree species on that site that might be future adapted to climate that aren't currently there, and so using planting and other strategies to do that. On top of that, we're deploying advanced sensoring technology to try to understand how are forest carbon dynamics, water dynamics responding to these changes, and really trying to both throw technology as well as expertise from folks on the ground at this grand challenge of climate change and global change, to develop solutions that managers can use to really adapt their ecosystems to these great changes. And so we employ a tremendous number of undergraduates in our research each summer on these projects. And so those of you that are interested in this type of work, There'll be lots of opportunities working with me and other scientists on this research, try to work with managers and really work on the ground on these solutions that are critical for sustaining forest ecosystems going forward.
Henry, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me, allowing me to go birding with you and your mentees from Flynn Elementary. Tell me a little bit about this course that you're taking now that you have allowed me to participate in, and I understand this isn't your first time.
Definitely. So Birding for Change, taught by Trish O'Kane, is my favorite course I've ever taken at UVM. And it's just a way to get outside and engage kids outside. It's not about really necessarily like teaching them things like, oh, like, what is this and what does it do? It's just an opportunity and an experience for them to look around them and be able to make those observations for themselves, and be able to see something and ask, what is that? Why is that the way that it is? But I took this class kind of on a whim in the spring of my sophomore year. So incorporating birds and nature outside with kids, I thought that could be something that would be fun. And it became my whole world.
So tell me a little bit about that full service learning component and how you think it helps you as a college student from an academic perspective.
There's nothing quite like actually being able to go outside and be able to do this every single week.
Right.
Like, this is my classroom, like this is what I want it to be like going forward, not just in this class. This semester, me and a couple of my friends have basically worked really, really hard to set up a chapter, and UVM now has an Audubon chapter. It's one of the first chapters out of college around the nation. And we're really passionate about getting kids outside, getting kids birding, of course, but also not only having that opportunity to recreate and enjoy, but to really learn and get an educational experience out of that as well.
And that's what it's all about. And so you know our focus is student success for our college students, but you're also committed to student success at the elementary and middle school level as well. And do you know what the next step is after the...
I have an idea. I really do want to pursue environmental education.
Sure.
At the grad level. That's kind of my plan. I don't know quite where that's going to take me, but so long as it takes me outside and I get to still be able to interact with kids, I think that's going to be my number one thing.
Well, we're so glad that you made the choice to come to UVM, and I know you're giving back already in so many ways, and I'm going to keep my eye on you.
Thank you.
So how did you get here? What made you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, an obsession with fishing. I'll just start there.
Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah, it starts there and it doesn't end. Honestly, I just want to be around fish all the time.
So I'll tell you my very first experience fishing, I was 7 years old. I had 4 brothers, and my dad took us fishing, and I caught 7 fish. My brothers didn't catch any, and I loved it, but you know what, they never asked me to go fishing again. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing this summer and the research that you're involved in.
Yeah, so I'm actually part of 2 different projects. One's with Rosalie, she's a postdoc. She's trying to build a food web model for Lake Champlain because one has not been developed yet. I work with a program called R. It's a statistics program. Basically every week I'm doing a different project. So whether it's rainbow smelt, zooplankton, sculpin work, it changes all the time. I'm basically the one who, creates these little puzzle pieces. She's the one I feel like who puts them together. The second one, I'm a field technician for the boat, and they're targeting lake trout. They're hoping to see wild lake trout recruit. You get hands-on work, you get a little bit of work behind the scenes. Some of the more difficult stuff, such as programming for me. You really get a lot of good experiences and connections with people here.
Right, that's great.
All my experience with the equipment we're using, for example, fyke nets, gill nets, midwater trawls, benthic trawls, it's all super important for technician positions.
I think what's really important too for students is to understand from an academic perspective, you are doing programming, computer science kinds of things and math things, but then you're on the lake and working with fish so people can actually see the pathways to achieve your ultimate goals.
Hi there, my name is Kate. I'm a senior here in the Rubenstein School. My major is in environmental science, and then I have 2 minors, one in geospatial technologies and the other in wildlife biology. I'm involved with a few different things here at UVM. I've been a part of the figure skating club and the synchronized skating team all 4 years that I've been in college. I'm also one of the Rubenstein School stewards, so we're a group of undergraduate students that organize community events, and then we also help individual students with resumes and cover letters and all that kind of stuff. I've also been able to do 2 different internships, and the first one was working at a nature center where I got to do a lot of environmental education. I got to help develop curriculum and then lead a lot of summer camps. I spent a lot of time outside with kids doing different science projects, and that was just a whole lot of fun. The more recent internship that I did was through the Perennial Internship program, and it was working with the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, and I was able to work with their aquatic invasive species team, and we traveled all across the state of Vermont visiting a bunch of different lakes and ponds. We also did some community education events where we helped people learn to identify different aquatic plants. Some were native, some were not, some were invasive, all that kind of stuff. And I got to also update some plant keys and help develop the site maps for the places that we were going. But the majority of my summer was spent out on the water. We did different surveys, especially across Lake Champlain, and we would map and then pull out all the water chestnut, which was the main aquatic invasive plant that we were managing for. But that was just a really great opportunity to get to work with the State Department and apply some of the knowledge that I had learned in classes to the real world to actually implement different things like in projects across the state, making a difference. So that was a really cool opportunity. I'm really sad that I don't get to meet all of you in person, but I hope you have a really great virtual admitted students day. Bye!